Hello and welcome. We begin with Libya, where the capital Tripoli has been rocked by heavy clashes. At least 6 people have been killed, with local media reporting that an armed group leader was among the dead. This is likely to trigger a major shift in power. Plumes of black smoke rose over Tripoli as gunfire and explosions echoed across the city on Monday night, after fierce fighting broke out between rival armed groups. Armoured vehicles rolled out and security forces were deployed as tensions gripped the streets of Tripoli. Clashes have now subsided after a truce being announced, but the situation remains tense. The violence was triggered by reports of the death of Abdel-Ghani al-Kikli, now a powerful militia leader who led the group Security Stabilisation Apparatus, or the SSA. Kikli was a dominant figure in Tripoli and had been controlling large parts of the city, including government offices, prisons, and financial institutions. He was often called the de facto king of the capital. Kikli was reported killed under unclear circumstances. Photos of his body circulated online, though not independently verified. But reports of his death set off hours of heavy clashes between his loyalists and rival factions. Soon after the news broke, forces loyal to Prime Minister Abdulhamid al-Dbeibah took control of Kikli's strongholds. They swept through the SSA's bases, removing symbols, clearing out fighters, and reclaiming key locations, including parts near the central bank. Now, this marks yet another chapter in Libya's long-standing instability, which began after the 2011 uprising that overthrew dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Now, since 2014, Libya has been divided. Eastern Libya is mostly controlled by the military leader Khalifa Haftar, and Western Libya, governed by the UN-backed Government of National Unity, or the GNU, and it is headed by Prime Minister Abdulhamid. Tripoli itself has been fractured, with multiple militias competing for power. The latest events may now signal a shift, with fewer groups under tighter central control, potentially strengthening Dbeibah's grip on power in the capital. But this power consolidation in the west may also escalate tensions with the east, where Haftar's forces hold Libya's main oil fields. Despite repeated international efforts to end the East-West split and to hold national elections, Libya remains deeply divided. The country has also become a stage for regional power struggles, with Russia, Egypt, and the UAE allegedly backing the eastern faction led by Haftar, while Turkey supporting Dbeibah's government in the west. How will the latest clashes change the power dynamics in the nation? To discuss further, we have with us Mohammed Al-Jard, who is the co-founder Libya Outlook for Research and Consulting, and he is joining us live from Casablanca, Morocco. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Alison, for having me.
Now, what triggered the latest armed clashes in Tripoli, and how significant is the reported killing of the armed group leader in this escalating violence?
So the new bout of violence in Tripoli has to do with the fact that the Prime Minister of the internationally recognized government, Abdulhamid al-Dbeibah, wants to maintain his seat of power. Recently, the United Nations, through the advisory technical committee of Libyan experts, came up with plans, if you like, or a number of scenarios of how to end the political stalemate in Libya and form a unified government and move the country to elections. And all of them start with a change in government. The Prime Minister, obviously, of this internationally recognized government, Abdulhamid al-Dbeibah, wanted to redraw the security and the military scene in Tripoli. And he asked armed groups that are loyal to him to attack other armed groups that are not entirely loyal to him, despite the fact that they are institutionally under his government, and they have the legitimacy and are paid by his government and by the executive authority in Tripoli. So this basically was an attempt by the Prime Minister of the internationally recognized government to cling on to his seat of power and to ensure that whatever process that comes through the UN or otherwise would have to come through him, and where he would have to be on the table and decide what kind of government there might be. So this is why we have seen these clashes. It is not because the militia leader was killed. The militia leader was killed because of al-Dbeibah's orders to his loyal armed group leaders to start moving against the stabilization force, whose leader was assassinated, according to government sources in Tripoli now, that he was assassinated after a meeting with armed group leaders loyal to the Prime Minister of the internationally recognized government.
Right. And how do these clashes reflect the ongoing power struggle between the UN-recognized government in Tripoli and the Haftar-controlled administration in the east?
So it's just to confirm once again that this is an internal Tripoli issue. Khalifa Haftar in the east, or the authorities in eastern Libya, have had nothing to do with this. However, the reason that Abdulhamid al-Dbeibah is trying to redraw the Prime Minister of the internationally recognized government, he's trying to redraw the military and security scene in Tripoli and to have monopoly there, so that he becomes the only actor that Haftar would have to deal with if there is going to be a unified government and a unity in Libya, and where the international community, including the United Nations, would have to deal with him. But unfortunately, the plans of the Prime Minister of the international recognized government, Abdulhamid al-Dbeibah, didn't go as he wanted or as he anticipated, given that he has now faced fierce opposition from other powerful armed groups in Tripoli, like the Rada force. There are also now armed forces coming from the west of Tripoli, Zawiya and Warshafana areas west of Tripoli. Now it looks like there has been a truce, if you like, in Tripoli, and there has been calls for de-escalation. But it looks like the internationally recognized government led by Abdulhamid al-Dbeibah is currently in a very difficult situation after its plans to redraw the military and security landscape in Tripoli seem to have failed to achieve the intended results.
Yes, and what are the potential implications of this renewed violence on Libya's not just stability, but peace negotiations and, of course, the prospects for national elections?
So basically, as I said, this new bout of violence is directly linked to the recent announcement by the United Nations that the advisory committee that it has appointed has now come up with possible scenarios or proposals on how to move the country forward and unify the country's institutions. Now, this bout of violence indicates how difficult the environment is when it comes to enforcing those plans that start with the formation of a new unified government, which means that the current government in Tripoli and also the rival government in Benghazi, called the Libyan Stabilization Government, would both have to be gone in order for a new authority to be formed. Obviously, this represents both a risk to those UN plans, but it could also represent an opportunity, especially if Abdulhamid al-Dbeibah's efforts to try and derail this UN effort to form a new government fail, and then he's forced out of government. Then that opens the door quite wide open for the formation of a new unified government that its main mandate is supposed to be to put the country on the path for elections within 18 or 24 months, according to some of the excerpts and the leaks from those United Nations plans. But as you can see, that the situation remains quite fluid, uncertain, with lots of risks, but potentially with also opportunities.
Yeah. Right. Mohammed, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa.
Thank you very much for having me.
At Firstpost, we are choosing to hold on to accuracy. That means we won't always be first. We may not get you your breaking alert. But what you will get is what we owe you. And that is the truth. Verified, checked, and cross-checked. We rely on sources and verified ones. After all, that's what separates a journalist from a loudspeaker. But sometimes even we miss a beat. And when we do, we will tell you. Like yesterday, we ran visuals from a registered news agency. That visual turned out to be fake. So we are taking accountability. And from now on, we will cite the source of every visual. Every picture, every video that you see on Firstpost will have a source mentioned. That is our commitment to you. We will wait, we will verify, we will ask again, and only then will we tell you. No noise, no panic, just the facts. Because right now, that is what the country needs most.